Number 10. The land where order meets nature. Welcome to Sweden, a country that somehow manages to be both ultra-modern and anciently tranquil. Spanning approximately 452,000 square kilometers, it is the fifth largest nation in Europe, yet home to only 10.6 million people. Sweden's landscape feels almost surreal. Forests cover nearly 69% of the country, while lakes occupy more than 9% of its surface area. It's no wonder locals joke that in Sweden you can improve your health just by breathing. Winters are long and bone-chilling, summers fly by like a dream, and nature remains breathtakingly vibrant. A blend of endless greenery, mirror-like waters, and skies that never quite darken. Economically, Sweden carries far more weight than its size would suggest. With an estimated gross domestic product of around $660 billion, it's home to global giants like Volvo, IKEA, Spotify, and Minecraft. Yes, that little block-building game that conquered the world was born here. They even invented the three-point seatbelt, a Swedish creation that has saved millions of lives since 1959. Despite being a member of the European Union, Sweden still uses its own currency, the Swedish krona, and the country has almost said goodbye to cash. From your morning coffee to your train ticket, a simple card payment is all it takes. And beneath that polished surface lies a national philosophy called janteloven, or the law of Jante. It roughly translates to, don't think you're better than anyone else. It's not a written law, but an unspoken code that shapes how Swedes live with modesty and respect, without boasting or shouting at each other. That humility keeps their society calm, egalitarian, and quietly self-assured. We're heading north to explore the land of the midnight sun, snow-covered forests, Viking spirit, and design perfection. Before we continue, tell me, what country are you watching from? And if you had the chance to live in Sweden for a year, would you? Let me know in the comments. Number 9. The culture shocks you'll face in Sweden. If you ever move to Sweden, be prepared. Not for the cold, but for the silence. There's a Swedish saying that speech is silver, but silence is golden, and believe me, they mean it. Swedes are masters of peaceful stillness. They prefer to listen rather than speak, to observe rather than interrupt. When they do speak, they get straight to the point. No small talk, no sugarcoating. Imagine working with a Swedish boss for almost 2 months before you realize you don't even know their name. They never introduced themselves, never chatted, just nodded, said something like, hello, and went back to work with their headphones on. And that's perfectly normal. Get on a bus and you'll see the same thing. Everyone sitting alone, staring out the window in almost zen-like silence. If the bus is full, someone might sit next to you, but the moment a seat becomes available, they'll discreetly move. Don't take it personally. It's not you. It's simply Sweden. Then there's fika, the only thing that breaks the silence. A coffee break that's more of a ritual. It's not a coffee to go like in the US, nor a tea ceremony like in Japan. It's about slowing down, sharing a moment, and reconnecting over a hot cup of coffee and some cinnamon buns. In homes, fika is a warm welcome. At work, it's sacred, a pause to breathe, converse, and remember that life isn't all about deadlines. Declining a fika invitation can offend someone without you even realizing it. But the real shock comes from how precise Swedes are. Ask them when they take their winter break, and they won't say November. They'll say week 46. Ask about their apartment number, and they'll reply 39, meaning 39 square meters. Their ID numbers have exactly 10 digits. Even when you ask their age, young Swedes often respond with their birth year rather than their age in years. Accuracy here is an art. That attention to detail extends even to family terms. Grandparents aren't simply grandfather or grandmother. There's a distinct word for maternal grandmother, maternal grandfather, paternal grandmother, and paternal grandfather. 4 words for 2 people because clarity matters. And let's not forget lagom, that tranquil philosophy of the middle ground. Not too much, not too little. Balance in everything. It shapes how Swedes work, eat, spend their money, and even decorate their homes. The idea is simple. Happiness comes from moderation, not excess. Even their language reflects that spirit. You'll hear tack everywhere, a single word that means both please and thank you depending on the tone. Swedes are also incredibly honest, sometimes brutally so. They won't flatter you to be nice, and they expect you to be just as direct. Are you hungry? Say so. Do you like someone? Tell them. They respect truth over appearances. They might seem cold at first, but once you earn a Swede's trust, you have a friend for life. They don't say much, but when they care about you, they mean it. And if you think they're strict about rules, think again. Sweden is one of the few places in the world where you can walk, ski, camp, or even drive freely across most of the public land. It's called allemansrätten, the right of public access. As long as you don't trespass on private property or damage nature, the entire country is your backyard. If you've ever lived somewhere that gave you culture shock, tell me, what was the strangest custom you had to adapt to? Number 8. A country known for its beautiful women. If you've ever seen photos of Sweden, you might have had the same thought as many travelers. The people here look like they stepped straight out of a Scandinavian design magazine. Swedish women are often tall, naturally elegant, with fair skin, light hair, and eyes that range from icy blue to deep forest green. But honestly, what makes them unforgettable isn't just their looks, but the mindset behind them. Sweden is one of the most gender-equal societies in the world, and women grow up learning to be independent from a young age. They travel, study abroad, build their own careers, and don't wait for anyone to come and save them. That confidence is clearly reflected in the dating culture. Splitting the bill is normal, taking the initiative isn't unusual, and equality is non-negotiable. It's the expected thing to do. At first, that independence might feel distant, but it's not coldness. It's quiet confidence. Much of that stems from janteloven, the cultural notion that no one should think they're better than anyone else. Humility is deeply ingrained here, even in relationships, and arrogance is one of the quickest ways to lose someone's interest. Now here's the interesting part. While Swedish women are strong and independent, they still appreciate simple, sincere gestures. Flashy compliments and exaggerated boasting don't work here. Authenticity does. Listen when she speaks. Be respectful. Be real. If you're in Stockholm during the summer, inviting her for a fika, that is, coffee and a cinnamon bun, might be the most Swedish move you can make. It's relaxed, cozy, pressure-free, and surprisingly, that's how many love stories begin here. So what's the real secret? Be genuine, be kind, and never act like you're above her. She'll see right through it. If you want to win over a Swedish woman, leave the number 8 in the comments. Number 7. Sweden imports garbage from other countries. After meeting Sweden's calm and confident women, let's talk about something much less glamorous: garbage. And yes, this sounds strange at first. Sweden actually imports garbage from other countries. Back in 2012, the waste-to-energy plants became so efficient that they literally ran out of garbage to burn. The average Swede produces about 460 kilograms of waste per year, but that wasn't enough to keep the system running at full capacity. So instead of slowing down, Sweden started importing waste, between 1.4 and 1.6 million tons annually, from countries like Norway, the UK, and Italy. And here's the twist: those countries pay Sweden to take it away. The reason this works is simple. Sweden recycles practically everything. Around 99% of household waste is reused or recovered, and only 1% ends up in landfills. Half is recycled into new materials: paper, plastics, organic waste converted into fertilizer or biogas, and even medications returned to pharmacies. The rest is converted into electricity and district heating, warming nearly 1 million homes and reducing carbon dioxide emissions by around 2.3 million tons per year. Recycling here isn't just policy, it's culture. Children learn to sort waste from kindergarten. Supermarkets have reverse vending machines that give you money back for bottles and cans. Some public bins even play a tune when you throw something in them, because apparently cleaning up can be fun. Step inside a recycling plant and it looks like a scene from science fiction. Giant mechanical claws lift mountains of waste while sensors and lasers sort the materials with astonishing precision. The system works so well that other countries are studying the Swedish model to replicate it. Of course, even the cleanest paradise has its cracks. In March 2025, a waste management executive was sentenced to 6 years in prison for secretly burying more than 200,000 tons of industrial waste. A reminder that no system is perfect. Even so, with forests covering 69% of the country, electric vehicles on the rise, and a national goal of carbon neutrality by 2045, Sweden isn't just managing its waste, it's redesigning the future. Number 6. Sweden's strangest foods. Swedish cuisine may not be loud or spicy, but when it comes to unusual dishes, it certainly knows how to surprise. Let's start with the most iconic dish, Swedish meatballs, known locally as köttbullar. These perfectly seasoned little meatballs are served with mashed potatoes, creamy gravy, and lingonberry jam. It might sound like an odd combination, but the balance of sweet, salty, and creamy flavors makes it a deeply comforting dish loved around the world. Moving into more unusual territory, there's blood pudding made with pig's blood, rye flour, and spices, sliced and fried until crispy. It's usually served with lingonberry jam and is a nostalgic comfort food for many Swedes, regularly appearing even on school lunch menus. Another traditional curiosity is lutefisk. This is dried white fish soaked in lye and water until it becomes soft and gelatinous. The process gives it a translucent appearance that might surprise first-timers, but it remains a much-loved festive dish, typically served with potatoes, peas, and white sauce. For a visual twist, there's smörgåstårta, a sandwich cake that looks like a dessert but is made of layers of bread filled with shrimp, salmon, eggs, mayonnaise, and cold cuts, decorated like a party cake. It's the centerpiece of celebrations and family gatherings, although cutting into a seafood-filled pastry can feel a bit surreal at first. Then comes the ultimate challenge, surströmming. Often listed as the world's smelliest food, this fermented Baltic herring is famous, or rather infamous, for its powerful odor, which is frequently compared to a mixture of rotten eggs, spoiled dairy, and burnt rubber. The fish are caught in late spring, salted for about 20 hours, and then fermented in barrels. Fermentation begins in as little as a day, and producers leave space in the containers to prevent them from bursting due to gas buildup. Once canned, the process continues, causing the cans to bulge, a characteristic feature of surströmming. Because of the pressure and the smell, airlines ban it, and even Swedes themselves prefer to open it outdoors. Rounding out the list is rörakor, a crispy potato casserole typically served with pork and cranberries. It perfectly reflects the Swedish culinary philosophy, hearty, practical, and designed to sustain people through the long, cold winters. Number 5. The Disgusting Food Museum. Welcome to Malmo, home to one of the strangest museums on Earth, the Disgusting Food Museum. This isn't a place for art lovers or history buffs. It's a place where your stomach is put to the test. Opened in 2018, the museum occupies about 400 square meters and displays around 80 dishes from 35 countries, each chosen for a reason. Somewhere in the world, people find them absolutely repulsive. Everything here is real. No replicas, no filters, no mercy. The space is divided into 2 parts, one for looking and smelling, and one for tasting if you dare. According to the museum's founder, each item was selected based on 4 criteria: smell, taste, texture, and history. His aim was to demonstrate that disgust isn't universal. What makes your stomach turn might be someone else's comfort food. Wander through the exhibits and you'll see culinary nightmares from every corner of the globe. Bat soup from Guam, baby mouse wine from China, and casu marzu from Italy, a cheese teeming with live maggots that Guinness World Records dubbed the world's most dangerous cheese. There's also kiviak from Greenland, hundreds of seabirds fermented inside a seal's skin for months, a winter delicacy for the Inuit, but a horror story for most visitors that you can almost smell before you see it. The museum even includes unexpected cultural twists, things perfectly normal in their place of origin, but enough to make many foreign visitors gag. The aim isn't to mock, but to make you think. What you consider disgusting has everything to do with where you were born. Tickets cost between $7 and $8, a small price to pay to have your entire sense of taste challenged. Visitors leave laughing, shuddering, or slightly dizzy, but always thinking more deeply about the food and culture. Number 4. Unusual habits you won't believe are real. At first glance, Sweden seems calm, structured, and almost perfectly balanced. But spend a little time here. And you'll start noticing small cultural details that will make you wonder if all of this is really normal. Take parenting, for example. Sweden was the first country in the world to ban corporal punishment in 1979, and even a light spanking can technically be reported. Raising children is based on dialogue, eye contact, and emotional intelligence rather than fear. Parents often kneel down to speak at their children's eye level. Then there's Lördagsgodis, Saturday sweets. Since the 1950s, children have been allowed to enjoy sweets freely, but only on Saturdays, following research that linked sugar to tooth decay. Instead of banning them, Sweden limited them to one holiday per week. Even today, the average Swede consumes around 15 to 16 kilograms of sweets a year, one of the highest figures in the world. Some laws have also been surprising. Until January 2023, dancing in public places required official permission, even in small bars. After years of criticism, the rule was finally repealed, and Swedes can now dance without paperwork. Another detail that surprises foreigners is the relaxed attitude toward the human body. In Sweden, nudity is not automatically sexualized, it is considered natural. In saunas, lakes, or changing rooms, comfort matters more than strict dress codes. This sometimes fuels rumors such as Swedes not wearing underwear. But the truth is much less dramatic. What you choose to wear is a personal decision, not a moral one. And what about the viral rumor about Sweden, the idea that guests are not offered dinner? It is partially true, but context matters. Traditionally, families avoided feeding visiting children out of respect for other parents' routines. Today, this is rare, especially among older generations. But when the story resurfaced online in 2022, the internet reacted with shock and a little hunger. Sweden may seem predictable from the outside, but once you're here, its unspoken rules are precisely what make it so uniquely Swedish. Number 3. Why Sweden is considered a happy country. When people say Sweden is one of the happiest countries in the world, it's not marketing. It's structure. Happiness here is built into everyday life, from the moment you're born until the day you retire. It all starts with family policy. When a baby arrives, parents immediately receive 10 days of paid leave, and maternity and paternity benefits continue long afterward. Until a child starts school, parents can legally reduce their workday from 8 hours to 6. If a child falls ill, parents can take paid leave at any time until the child turns 12. In addition, families receive around $125 a month for each child under 16, without complicated paperwork. For many parents, that alone takes a huge weight off their shoulders. The safety net continues throughout life. Education is fully funded until the age of 18. If you have difficulty finding a job, the government helps with job placement or unemployment benefits. Work culture doesn't glorify burnout. Some workplaces even experiment with 6-hour days to prioritize productivity over exhaustion. And retirement comes with one of the world's strongest pension systems, meaning old age isn't something people dread. All of this rests on trust and taxes. High earners can pay more than 60% in income tax. Yet resentment is relatively low because people clearly see the return on their investment. In 2016, Sweden recorded a budget surplus of $9.5 billion, almost half of which came from higher than expected tax contributions. Citizens were, quite literally, paying more than required. Of course, happiness here isn't perfect. In recent years, Sweden has faced rising gang-related violence, social tensions, and economic pressures. Around 15% of the population is at risk of poverty, and inflation and the rising cost of living hit the most vulnerable families the hardest. Some now rely on organizations like the Swedish Red Cross, where unsold supermarket food is resold at reduced prices. Then, in 2024, Sweden made a historic decision by officially joining NATO, ending more than 200 years of neutrality. The move sparked a national debate and raised questions about the country's security, identity, and future direction. Number 2. The cost of living in Sweden. Let's talk now about something that surprises visitors even more than the winter: the prices. Sweden is frequently ranked among the most expensive countries in the world, and that reputation is not exaggerated. Housing is where most people feel the impact first. In Stockholm, a one-bedroom apartment in the city center, typically cost between 14,000 and 20,000 Swedish kroner per month, equivalent to roughly $1,300 to $1,850. Gothenburg and Malmö are somewhat cheaper, but still high by European standards. Demand far exceeds supply, and locals sometimes wait months or even years on municipal housing waiting lists. Grocery shopping isn't cheap either. A single person typically spends between 800 and 1,000 Swedish kroner a week cooking at home. Eating out adds up quickly. A simple lunch costs between 150 and 200 kroner, and dinner at a mid-range restaurant between 350 and 450 kroner. Alcohol is the most expensive item. A beer in a bar can easily cost $8 or $10, partly because it's sold through a state-run system that closes early and isn't open on Sundays. Transportation feels more reasonable. A monthly public transport pass in Stockholm or Gothenburg costs around 1,100 kroner, about $100, and covers buses, the subway, trams, and even some ferries. Gasoline is still expensive. So many people prefer trains and bicycles to cars. Now, here's the perspective-shifting part. Healthcare is universal, and a doctor's visit typically costs less than $12, with an annual cap of around $130. Education is free, and childcare is heavily subsidized. Taxes are high, sometimes exceeding 60% for top earners. But in return, people get safety, clean streets, reliable public services, and a solid work-life balance. It's a system where you pay more upfront but worry less over time. The real question is, would you rather have more money in your pocket today or trade it for long-term peace of mind? Number 1. The festivals that reveal the real Sweden. If you want to understand Sweden, don't start with the museums. Follow the festivals. It all begins with Valpurgis Night or Valborg on April 30th. All across Sweden, especially in university towns like Uppsala and Lund, people gather around huge bonfires. Centuries ago, fire was used to ward off witches and evil spirits. Today, it's more about burning away winter itself. Students see it as the unofficial start of summer. Families come out to sing choral songs, wave Swedish flags, and warm their hands by the flames. The night feels slightly chilly, slightly chaotic, but full of relief. Winter is finally over. A few weeks later comes its emotional opposite, midsummer. Celebrated in country fields and city parks, people dress in white linen, adorn their hair with wildflowers, and dance in circles to folk songs that sound cheerful but carry centuries of tradition within them. There are no grand stages or fireworks. The power of midsummer lies in its simplicity, nature, and being together. For many Swedes, this is the most important day of the year. As summer fades, Sweden shifts its mood rather than halting the celebrations. In August, crayfish parties take over gardens and lakeside homes. This is not a public festival, but a social ritual. Tables are covered with paper lanterns, guests don ridiculous hats, and everyone eats crayfish with their hands while singing short toasts. It's noisy, messy, and intentionally unserious. A rare moment when Swedes allow themselves to be openly clownish. And finally, in the far north, nature takes complete control. The northern lights in Swedish Lapland are not an organized festival at all. Yet they feel like one. People gather quietly in the snow, bundled up in warm clothes, waiting for the sky to begin to move.